Let me ask you something. You spend all that money on a fancy fish finder, you drill a dozen holes, and you finally mark a monster school of walleye. What's the very next thing you do? If you're like most people, you drag your shelter right on top of them. And I'm here to tell you that might be the single biggest reason you go home empty-handed. Today we're talking about why your ice shelter, your cozy home on the ice, might be the biggest fish repellent you own. Stick around, because I'm going to show you a simple change in your setup that will turn those blank screens and dead bites into consistent action. You think a fish under 2 feet of ice cares about your shelter? Let me know in the comments right now, and then see if you still agree at the end of this video. For generations, the logic seems simple. Find the fish, set up on the fish, catch the fish. It makes perfect sense, right? You want to be comfortable, out of the wind, and positioned right over the action. We've all done it. We see that beautiful red blob on the Garmin or the Vexilar, and we get this gold rush fever. We have to claim that spot immediately. But in our rush, we forget one crucial thing. Fish aren't stupid, and their world under the ice is a lot more sensitive to disturbance than most of us realize. That habit of setting up shop directly on their heads is a tradition we need to break. Let's start with the most obvious problem, noise. Imagine you're a perch, just minding your own business near a patch of weeds. The underwater world is generally quiet, with muffled, distant sounds. Suddenly it sounds like the sky is falling. Thump, drag, scrape. That's the sound of you dragging your heavy frozen sled and shelter across the ice right above. Sound travels incredibly well through ice and water. To that fish, your arrival isn't a subtle clue. It's a loud, terrifying alarm bell. It signals that a large, heavy predator is directly overhead, and its first and only instinct is to get away from that danger zone as fast as it can. Now, let's think about the setup process itself. It's not a quiet activity. You're stomping your feet to clear snow and level the area. You're forcefully popping the hubs of your shelter into place, a sound that creates a significant shock wave. Then, you might use a power drill to screw in your ice anchors. Each one of those actions sends a sharp, percussive vibration directly down into the water. If you were watching on a live sonar, you could literally see the fish react. They scatter. They panic. You're basically throwing a rock into a pond, except the pond is their living room, and you're dropping it right on their heads. By the time you're settled in, the party is long over. Here's where we bust a common myth. A lot of anglers believe that thick ice acts as a sound barrier. They'll say, "I've got over 2 feet of ice here. They can't hear a thing." Unfortunately, that's completely wrong. Physics tells us that sound travels much faster and more efficiently through solids and liquids than it does through air. That thick ice isn't a muffler. It's a giant speaker cone. It takes all the noise you make on the surface and transmits it perfectly to the water below. It's like putting your ear to a railroad track to hear a distant train. The fish feel those vibrations through their lateral line long before you think they would. So you've successfully made a ton of noise and scared them. But the assault on their senses isn't over yet. Let's talk about light. When you set up a dark house or a pop-up shelter over a hole, you completely block the natural ambient light that was filtering through the snow and ice. From the fish's perspective, a huge dark shadow just materialized out of thin air. In the natural world, what does a sudden large shadow from above almost always mean? A predator. It could be a predatory bird, like an eagle or an osprey, or a mammal like an otter. Their hardwired survival instinct immediately kicks in, telling them to flee from that new, ominous shadow. We can call this the black hole effect. The world under the ice is a world of filtered, uniform light. When you place your shelter, you create a circle of complete darkness that is totally unnatural. It's a spooky, alien presence. Then, to make it even worse, you turn on your lantern or a bright LED light inside. Now, you've replaced the black hole with a focused, intense beam of light punching down into the depths. This is just as unnatural and frightening as the darkness was. You've essentially turned your fishing spot into a stage with a spotlight, highlighting the danger for every fish in the area. Now for a more subtle but equally important factor, pressure. Fish are masters at detecting minute changes in water pressure. It's how they navigate, hunt, and sense their surroundings through their lateral line. When you drill a hole, you create a sudden change in the pressure system under the ice. Then, you place a shelter weighing hundreds of pounds, plus your own body weight and gear, onto a small area. This weight causes the ice to flex and sag, even if it's just a tiny amount. This creates a pressure wave in the water below. Another clear signal to the fish that something large and unnatural is present above them. You have to understand that it's not just one of these things. It's the cumulative effect of all of them happening at once. It's the loud, scary noise of your arrival. It's the sudden, predatory shadow of your shelter. It's the unnatural beam of your lantern. And it's the weird pressure changes in the water. You are launching a full-scale sensory attack on the very fish you're trying to attract. You wouldn't try to sneak up on a deer in the woods by banging pots and pans and shining a spotlight. So why do we do the equivalent to fish under the ice? The absolute best proof of this phenomenon is right there on the screen of your electronics. We've all seen it happen. You find a spot, and your flasher is glowing red from top to bottom with fish. You get excited, you set up your shelter, you get your gear ready, you drop your lure down the hole, and you look at the screen to see absolutely nothing. It's a ghost town. The fish are gone. We like to blame a change in the weather or say the school just moved on. The difficult truth, more often than not, is that we personally scared them away with our setup. Okay, so I've painted a pretty bleak picture, but I'm not telling you to abandon your shelter and freeze to death. There is a simple, elegant solution that professional anglers and savvy old-timers have been using for years. The strategy is called fishing off the spot. The concept is simple. You separate your zone of comfort from your zone of fishing. You use the shelter to stay warm, but you don't fish directly under it. This one small change in approach can completely transform your results. Here is the practical way to execute this strategy. First, do your homework, drill your holes, use your electronics, and find where the fish are holding. Let's say you find a great school of crappies suspended over a deep basin. Mark that spot with your GPS or a landmark. Now, instead of parking your shelter directly on top of that GPS point, you are going to intentionally move away from it. Pick a spot a good 20 to 30 feet away, or even more if the water is clear and shallow. This distance is your buffer zone. This new spot, away from the fish, becomes your base camp. This is where you set up your shelter. Go ahead and make all the noise you need to right here. Drag your sled, pop your hubs, start your heater, get your coffee ready. You are creating your zone of disturbance in a location that doesn't matter. You are containing all your noise and light pollution in an area that is far enough away to not spook the fish on the target spot. You're being strategic about where you make your presence known. From the comfort of your shelter, you can now fish the prime spot without disturbing it. Before you settled in, you should have drilled a couple of extra holes. Don't just drill the hole inside your shelter. Drill one or two more holes that are positioned between your shelter and the spot where you mark the fish. Think of your shelter as your warm command center, and those satellite holes are your fishing stations. This allows you to fish the productive water while your shadow and noise stay far away. Let's talk about drilling smart. It's best to get all of your drilling done at once, right at the beginning. Once you've located the school, drill your base camp hole and your satellite fishing holes all in one go. Be as quiet and efficient as you can. A sharp auger cuts faster and makes less noise. Clear the slush out of the holes gently. The less commotion you make near the actual fishing spot, the better your odds. After that, you can retreat to your shelter and fish those remote holes in peace. There's another major benefit to this approach. Fishing the edge of a school is often far more productive than fishing the middle of it. The most active and aggressive fish in a school are often the ones cruising the perimeter. They are on the hunt. By setting your bait on the edge of their zone, you are presenting your offering to these prime targets first. You can pick off these aggressive fish without ever alerting and spooking the main concentration of fish, allowing you to fish the spot for much longer. This technique becomes even more critical if you are using modern technology like live view sonar. With panoptics, live scope, or mega live, you can literally watch fish react to your presence in real time. Anglers using this tech will tell you they see it constantly. A four-wheeler drives by overhead, and the entire school of fish below tightens up and drops to the bottom. They are hyper-aware of overhead threats. If you can see them on the screen, they can definitely sense you. And if you're on top of them, they're not going to stick around for long. Instead, use that powerful sonar from a distance. Set up your shelter 30 or 40 feet away and point your transducer at the structure where you know the fish are. From your warm seat, you can watch the school behave in a completely natural, undisturbed state. You can see how they're relating to the structure, which direction they're moving, and you can place your lure perfectly in their path without ever making them feel threatened. It turns fishing into a strategic video game, but it only works if you're not sitting directly on top of the game board. This entire philosophy also applies to hole hopping without a shelter. Let's say you're moving fast and light. You drill a hole and immediately mark fish. The temptation is to immediately punch 5 more holes in a tight circle around that first one. That's a mistake. You're just creating more noise and commotion right in their kitchen. Instead, back off. Drill your next set of holes 10 or 15 feet away, on the edge of where you think the school is. Work the perimeter. Be a stealthy hunter, not a loud intruder. I can give you a perfect real-world example. Just last winter, a buddy and I were chasing jumbo perch on a massive, featureless flat. We finally found a huge school, and his Vexilar lit up like a Christmas tree. His immediate reaction was to flip over his shelter and start setting up right there. I told him to hold on. I walked about 50 feet away, set up my hub shelter, and then drilled 2 holes back toward the school. He laughed at me for being so far away. For the next hour, I iced 1 jumbo perch after another. He caught 2 small ones. He finally got frustrated, moved his shelter off the spot, and his day completely turned around. Ultimately, this is about a fundamental shift in your mindset. You have to stop thinking of the ice as a solid, soundproof floor separating 2 different worlds. You need to start thinking of it as a very thin ceiling that the fish are constantly monitoring for danger. Your primary job as an angler is to be a ghost. Your shelter is your base camp, a place for warmth and comfort. It is not your primary hunting blind. Your true hunting blind is that small, quiet 5-inch hole you drilled 20 feet away from all your noise. The reward for making this simple, strategic change is enormous. You will experience far fewer dead periods right after you get set up. The fish that you mark on your finder will actually stay there long enough for you to catch them. You'll be able to work a single school of fish for a much longer period of time before they wise up to your presence. You will catch more fish, and you will catch bigger fish, because the older, wiser trophy fish are always the first ones to be spooked by commotion. Be quiet, be smart, and set up off the fish. So, let's wrap this all up. The biggest takeaway here is this. Finding the fish is only half the battle. The other, and arguably more important half, is not scaring them away once you've found them. By setting up your shelter directly on top of a school, you are unintentionally bombarding them with a multi-sensory attack of noise, shadows, and pressure changes that all signal one thing: danger. You're effectively undoing all the hard work and time it took to locate them in the first place. The real aha moment is when you realize your shelter is a tool for comfort, not a fishing platform. The most productive water is almost never directly beneath your feet. The real action is out there, a strategic distance away, where the fish are undisturbed and have no idea you even exist. This single change, moving your shelter 20, 30, or even 40 feet away and fishing back towards the spot, can completely revolutionize your success on the ice. It's the difference between a frustrating day and a full bucket. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you rethink your ice fishing setup, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. And now, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest unwritten rule of ice fishing that you swear by? Drop your wisdom in the comments below. Let's all learn something new. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the ice.